Dobrodošla v Kinodvor.
Bolje vas našla.
We shall speak English because there is a festival public here of the Mesto žensk festival, which you know, and you have been also. Thank you, congratulations, and thank you again for the film. It is a powerful film, and a film I think we need. I have also welcomed the people in the hall to join the conversation. So perhaps just to start, a question. You have been talking to Sonia for many years. When did it occur to you that a film is the way to let her story go on and come to other people?
Immediately, actually. From the first moment I met her through Ana Bujanovic, who is a co-writer of the film. She is also her grandniece. And back then, more than 10 years ago, Ana and I were very active at the independent cultural, artistic and leftist activist scene in Belgrade, in connection also with other scenes on the territory of Yugoslavia. And somehow, I got to know a bit about Sonia's story through Ana, and I wanted to meet her because I thought it's relevant for our work and our experience back then in Belgrade, but also today it's even more relevant, I would say. And actually, when I first met Sonia, I discovered how powerful storyteller she is. And I was back then a student of film directing, and I immediately wanted to make a film. So we started already next time when I met Sonia, it was with a camera. So back then, actually, this long process of doing interviews with Sonia started.
How did she react to your wanting to get the most out of her, or the most stories, the most?
I think actually she was very up to it because she wanted to write a book for many years, but I think actually that it was difficult, emotionally, and I think because when you write, you do it alone. I think for her it was in a way easier to actually transfer this experience and story to some people who really care about this story, and to new generations. I think, throughout this process, we also became friends. Anna is family with her, but I became a friend with her and her partner Ivo, and it was a exchange, and we learned from each other. And I think at the end, she was very, very happy that we managed to finish the film and that the story goes on. And as we say, to the bodies of the new generation of hopefully anti-fascists and political activists.
You tell the story, let's say, of the film in many layers, with many ways that come together, and also already in the title there is landscapes of resistance. There are, by my thought, several landscapes, but to talk about the nature and or the urban surroundings, are they directly connected to Sonia, or is it something that you?
Actually, the film is made in the landscape cinema paradigm, but it was, decided on purpose because actually, when I met her, as I told you already, I discovered how powerful storyteller she is, and Anna and I later described her way of telling her story as producing verbal images or these scenes of memory. And with the landscape, with confronting these scenes with the landscapes, I actually wanted to give space to these stories. But also, concrete landscapes are not random. They are actually like where the events from these stories happened. So in 95% of the material, there is one scene where we could not access the place she's describing, and then it's more on a associative level, but almost everywhere it's really, we did the research, we talked to the people in these areas, and we try to find these spots. But it's not, of course, about the exact spot. Then it's also about research, artistic research on the spot with the cinematographer, Ivan Markovic, where we really try to rediscover these places again, and to see what changed and what traces of either memory and this experience we see, or how we experience this nature now, or are there some artifacts which are completely new? Even in the forest, you see this strange object in the forest, which is a kind of like artificial object there, and we got interested, for example, in this, and so it's connected with the story in many ways, associative, but also very concretely it connects to her story and her experience.
And also the soundscape is very interesting and evocative, with all the silence actually being under the very explosive stories and feelings and
sound is very important for me in general. I mean, in cinema it's very important in general, but I really wanted us to feel, or you as audience to really feel that sound is equally important as the image. Also in a way, or that her voice is equally important with the atmospheres that we have from forests or different places that we encounter, and we worked on it extensively. So there is also a kind of let's say unconventional mixing in the film, because usually in this kind of films there is a voice which is really strongly leading you through the film, and it's much more dominant. But here we try to make it technically correct, meaning that you can understand what she's saying, but also that the nature or the atmospheres from these specific places are very present, like you are there, like transported in these places now, but also being part of her story in a way through sound.
Perhaps a question from the audience. About the drawings.
Drawings. Yes. This is this layer came quite late in the editing process. And actually, I was thinking about this also in relation to my previous film, which is all about collective body. And in this film, it is again about collective body in the storytelling, but it's a story of one body, an experience from a perspective of one body. And somehow I wanted to inscribe other bodies in these landscapes that Sonia went through, because she was not alone. And in her story, she always refers to different people that she encountered or shared part of her journey with. And drawings themselves are from, they're like one of the materials or rare materials which were not made specifically for this film. They are drawings of partisan artist Pivo Karamatijević. He was actually, like after the war, he became a famous artist and did much more monumental work. But during the war, he captured in drawings this like everyday life of partisans during the war. And I really found that fascinating. Actually, I found drawings in the text by Pavle Levi, who is also a film theorist, who wrote a text about his drawings. And then, I actually realized that some of the drawings that he is mentioning and showing that in this text are actually perfect for this film.
Another question from the public.
Hello. Can you maybe say something about the theater show that you also did? This, I think it's quite connected. So maybe if you can say something about that. Thank you.
Yes, actually, everything started with the work on this film, and then Ana Vujanović, who is a co-writer of this film, but co-author and main author of the performance that we did in Mladinsko Theater called Freedom Landscapes. Both works were made within our long-term artistic and theoretical research called actually Landscapes of Revolution, where we collect materials, but also conduct interviews with living female partisans from former Yugoslavia. It's about this oral history and also about the womanly side of the war. Of course, in reference to Svetlana Alexievich and her book, Unwomanly Side of the War. It was a very important reference to us and inspiration. Even actually, when we read the book, we already started working on the film. And I'm in Vienna, and I had a screening today, and somebody asked me why her partner is cut out from the film. And it was really interesting question, but it was not the first time that I get it. And actually it was very conscious decision to really focus on this experience of war, which is not coming from official history and male and mostly patriarchal narratives of history and war. So, which Ivo, being a very interesting person and very also interesting thinker, and his experience is very precious. Somehow he also has this approach in his way of presenting history and memory, talking about his memories, this more macro political approach. And sometimes he was telling Sonia, don't bother Marta and Anna with this. This is not important. It's important to say this and that. And she was like, no, but Marta actually asked me to tell her about these things, which, I mean, these things meaning this bodily experience and everydayness of war. So, then at some point I really decided to minimize his role in the film and to really strongly focus on Sonia and her story, because I thought it's also a political gesture, because we know, official history, and we can somehow reach to it if we want. But this everydayness of war, and also these things which are considered not so important, but are important or were important for us in the making of this film, like how people treated each other during the war, also this experience, but also awareness that you are part of the collective body, of the collective partisan body, and that you don't consider yourself to be a hero, which Sonia definitely didn't have in her understanding of herself, but also her experience. And we thought this is very politically engaging, because we don't need to be heroes in order to be partisans. So this is actually what we learned from Sonia.
Zdravo, Marta. This is Aldo speaking. Hello.
Hi.
Yesterday I met Anna in Zagreb at one conference, and she told me that the film received already, I think, over 40 reviews or something like that. Can you tell us a bit more about the reactions? About the reviews, how the reception that the film received, and probably if there is any difference maybe between reactions from I don't know, people from maybe from the former Yugoslavia with the experiences of the Yugoslav history and political regime and all these things, and on the other hand also people from other parts of Europe without that kind of experience, if there is any difference. And of course, congratulations for excellent film. It is really fantastic.
Thank you so much, Aldo. Yes, we were very surprised that actually the film was. It was one of the films that people wrote about. We premiered in the main competition in Rotterdam Film Festival. So okay, there is a press there, but we were very surprised how many reviews were published already, like after the premiere, and also how people find this story empowering. I mean, people from different, completely different contexts. So even our work is always very rooted in our local history and context and this experience. Somehow, I think that Sonia, the way she's telling her story and also dealing with this period when, about before the institutionalization of communist ideology, I think it was something very important for people, that this is before. It doesn't talk about like the communist state, but it talks about like the essence of communism in a way. And we got a lot of reviews, but also very interesting interpretations. Like, for example, the film critic from Sight and Sound really focused her review on transgenerational solidarity and this also solidarity and love between the different generations in the same context, and how this story is being transferred from like body to new bodies. And this was also something that we wanted to work on when we worked in Mladinsko in a different framework and in a performance. But I don't know if I answered your question. And then is there a difference? Actually, I don't think so, because I think with my previous film there is much more of a difference in perception of the film in different contexts. With this one, somehow I felt that really, at least in these bubbles that we live in, like for now, like the festival context, that people really needed this kind of story to empower them and to think about also possibilities of resistance today. And I think this is very precious, because our idea was to actually affirm something in this moment when, we need affirmation and inspiration to do something about rising fascism throughout Europe and even wider. And actually, interesting fact is that we even got a distributor for US and Canada. This is an experimental film, experimental documentary film, as you saw it. You just saw it. So it's quite interesting that people are want to distribute it also in a context which are completely like not connected to our like wider context of like territory of Yugoslavia or the Balkans.
Še kakšno vprašanje iz publike mogoče? Perhaps a question from me. Still. No, the shots you make accompanying the story of Sonia, the talking of Sonia, are almost that you can feel the textures and so on. Mm-hmm. But still, you also put into the film the process of making a film that mm-hmm. you are much seen. So I would say that the process of making the film becomes an act of two partisans itself. It's quite interesting that you do not engage only in the emotional getting of the film of the spectator. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, you're referring to the diary inscriptions, this level. Yeah.
Also, and you're also in the shot sometimes.
Ah, okay.
Not many times, but
yeah. I mean, referring to the inscriptions from Anna's diary, working diary. This came quite late in the editing process because we felt that we really need to inscribe ourselves more precisely into the film, because we realized actually that it's important to show that who we are, who is making this film today, that we are, and why this story is important to us, that we are like two women, that we are a queer couple, that we are coming from this like leftist, activist, cultural, artistic scene in Belgrade. And actually, I think it's important because we also wanted to connect, to people who are sitting in the cinema in a way, and start this process of thinking like what it means to be a partisan today, and what it, on one hand, and on the other hand, what partisan film can be or should be. Not as a genre from Yugoslavia, like a spectacle, but like political films which are breaking or challenging, let's say, a dominant paradigm, like from the media and from the like works being made, especially in relation to this history and memory and experience of the Yugoslav socialist project.
Prosim.
Thank you for the beautiful film and for the show. You said that for you it is important that the film is happening before the state, but before the state was institutionalized, and I'm wondering why exactly, and did Sonia talk only about her fight in the partisan war, or did she also talk about what happened later? And was your decision not to include it, or that conversation just didn't happen?
No, of course, conversation happened, what happened after the war, and also what happens, I mean, not now, but obviously because she's not with us anymore, but over this like 10 years, we were discussing things happening in our context a lot. And we really learned from this exchange with Sonia and Ivo how political education and especially self-education is important in order to recognize contemporary fascisms, because two of them are like really people Marxist, like having a very solid Marxist political education. And then we really saw it as a tool to read or understand what is happening in a society, because often in Serbia, at least, I don't know if in Slovenia is different, but people, older people are marginalized because they are poor. They don't consider themselves not useful for the society, and they then start also marginalizing themselves and not, considering their voice important somehow. And with Sonia and Ivo is not like that. And I think it's also coming from this political education that they have back then, which was not, which lasted, which was very useful also, throughout their life. Because it was interesting to see how they joined the struggles, like the demonstrations against Milosevic in the 90s. And then even they were ready to go to gay pride, which is quite kind of interesting for their generation. So they were really following and trying to understand what is happening in today's society and react to it with this tool that they have. But why? I thought that about institutionalization of actually communist ideology. Why I think it's important. I don't think. I made the film which is dealing with this whole process in a different way. I just think this was maybe important for the reception of the film, because in international context, especially because it talks about embodiment of communist ideology in this very early stage, before the communist state, which had its very positive, but also some negative sides, and ended up in a bloody civil war. So, I think there was a less space to problematize it, which I find very refreshing. Of course, from the experience of showing my previous film, Yugoslavia, How Ideology Moved Our Collective Body, which was dealing with this question of how ideology of socialist Yugoslavia was performed in public space through mass performances, but with example of youth work actions, then later state celebrations like sleds and so on. Because there is a lot of controversy. I think people coming from the West sometimes also think that if some people are doing if a lot of people are doing the same thing at the same time, it's something bad. It's totalitarian, and I don't think so. That it's necessary like that. At least traveling with the film and showing the film, like the previous one, in our region. Many people approach me who experienced this collective performances like sleds, and for them it was a very positive experience, and it was not something that they had to do, but that they wanted to do. So, yeah. But dealing with this earlier stage, I think helps us think about what communist ideology really is, without failure of its of the real socialism, or failures.
Še kakšno vprašanje iz publike? Pa komentar? Ja? Prosim, aha. Just get the microphone.
No, since it was in general talking about Yugoslavia, but not necessarily for the beginning, the time after Second World War, since a lot of things happened from 1989 to 1999 in Yugoslavia. So I was thinking if it will come in conversation, and also it was about fascism, if it will come some, I don't know, some story about what happened at the end or something, like how this changed, like their life or something, even though it is something else. But again, I don't know, I was just thinking, and when you mentioned now, I don't know, that they also were part of some other protest or were planning to go to the gay parade. So I was just thinking if there were also other stories that Sonia was telling.
Yeah, definitely. There were many other stories, but this film ends with the end of the Second World War. It's a dramaturgical and directorial decision. So, you know, every time when you make a film, you need to make a lot of decisions also to cut many interesting things. There is one very interesting moment, and I hope we will make, or I will make a separate either short film or a video work which deals with actually Sonia's perspective on the beginning of the war in Yugoslavia, from the beginning of the 90s. She was part of this association of survivors of Auschwitz and other concentration camps, and they sent a letter to all the media and also politicians back then in the beginning of the 90s, a letter saying what it means to start a war, and what actually, in a way, it was really like a prophecy. And now reading this letter, it's exactly what happened. And they were warning people, and they wanted this letter to be read, in the news or something like this. Of course, it didn't happen. And we also have a recording of Sonia reading this letter. She didn't write it by herself, but it was a collective gesture of this group of Auschwitz survivors. And I think it was very powerful and important political message, which unfortunately was not heard back then. But it was also from this letter, you see how clear for them, with their experience and also, as I mentioned, this Marxist perspective, was what it means to enter into these conflicts, which for many people, I think, in Yugoslavia back then seemed like, okay, it will finish soon. It will, it's like this national tensions and so on, but it will somehow resolve itself. And they were aware very precisely what is coming. And this is really interesting, I must say.
Marta, hi, it's Jovana. Ciao. I just, this is the impression, so it's not a question. I wanted to share the feeling that was similar but different from the theater play in Ljubljana. And that is, I was really impressed how you managed to create space for contemplation for us as an audience. This extremely slow pace of a film, especially slow for a documentary about Second World War. I think we are all too much used to this genre of bombastic, fast pace, National Geographic or Discovery type of documentaries where you are just bombed with a lot of information and with these sounds which are sort of forcing you to feel something. Rather, I think you managed to create space for true empathy with Sonia's story, but not as a story, but really to create a space for us to slowly sink into her voice, into maybe her eyes, which were, looking at these leaves while she was, with partisans in the woods. Just creating space for random associations that each of us has as its own vehicle for feeling something. I think that today we need to create a space in order really to feel something. And I think you managed to do it in very intuitive, though maybe counterintuitive way. So thank you for that.
Yeah. Thank you for the comment. This is something also coming from like slow cinema paradigm is really creating this space for reflection. In this case also we have, I mean, in the case of this film, because in slow cinema usually there is like a high form which is radical, like radical slowness, or but maybe there is, I mean, in most of the films there is no content is not that important. The form becomes the content, and somehow here it's used really for us to, as you said, experience and empathize and also contemplate on Sonja's experience. But also what was important for me was that we feel her body, like this body this idea of body as a landscape, a body that contains and experiences this story. I really wanted to, because landscapes are not just produced in this film by positioning the camera far away from something, but also getting very close to some things, either the fragments of the space that she spends time in, or her body. And I really wanted us to come close and also hear her body and see her body in a very close way. So I think also when with Anna I worked on the script, we also wanted to incorporate in, like, choose how we chose the stories was also from this like bodily perspective, like all the stories. And I mean, this is how Sonja remembered and her experience is somehow how she felt, how her body was experiencing this particular situation. And I was interested in that aspect, but definitely silence and contemplation and space for us to feel and think about what she's saying and what it means for us, as like individuals and as a part of a collective, individuals who are always already part of a collective.
Še kakšno vprašanje mogoče? Then I would like to thank everybody, and especially Marta, and wish that as much people as possible see the film. I think it's an important film and important thing to think about. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Varja, and everyone.